I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, "No, no, 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 we're going to do this." And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off road ability, as well as its robust interior, are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show.
Idealist of the day, this guy, Yunus Harej, by the way, he's making some really good lists on Notepad. He's been doing his idealists every day on NOTEPD, no A, notepad.com. And his latest one is 7 Japanese concepts that can help with self-mastery. And some of these I knew about and have really fallen in love with in my own life. And some of these I'm hearing for the first time. Joined by Jay and Paulo. Paulo, you ever heard of Ikigai before?
You know, I've heard of it before, but I don't know what it is.
So I'll just list them like right now, or some of them. Ikigai, Kaizen. I think a lot of people have heard of Kaizen. Wabi Sabi. Some people have heard of. There's a book about it. Some people haven't heard of. But Ikigai is one of my. Well, actually, all of these are my favorite. Let's talk about Kaizen first. Kaizen means. Well, this is what Eunice is saying. Kaizen means continuous and incremental improvement for the better. Continuous and incremental improvement is vital to get good habits and achieve excellence. And it reminds me of this concept that if you improve 1% per day at anything, you improve 3,800% per year because of the power of compounding. You don't just improve 365%. You're 38 times better than you were at the beginning of the year. If you just improve 1% a day, that's Kaizen.
Didn't you came up with the concept 1% better a day?
No, I stole it. I don't come up with any concepts for myself.
Stole it.
I actually...
You stole it from the Japanese.
Yeah, maybe I stole it from
your
the
source.
Japanese. But a lot of people talk about this. Like James Clear talks about this in his book, Atomic Habits. And I know I stole a graphic from him once because I think he was a little upset about it. But it's a very simple concept. And again, you can't say like, oh, I'm going to improve every day at... I don't know, my knowledge of science, because you can't quantitatively measure that. But look, if you put in work every day at something, like if you study a language every day, you'll be 38 times better at Spanish than you were at the beginning of the year if you try to improve 1% a day at your Spanish speaking. You know, like Paulo, you've studied languages. Do you think that's true? Like, do you think if you improve your ability to speak a language 1% a day, at the end of a year, you might be fluent or close to fluent?
I feel like with everything, the more advanced you become, the harder it is to improve, right?
Yeah, so the learning curve is steep, but then it plateaus.
I was actually thinking about it right now, right? Is actually 1% even achievable? Because it sounds so little, you know, oh yeah, of course I'll be able to improve 1%. But when you become pretty good at something, improving 1% is actually hard. I wonder if it's the distribution is more like 1% for the first 100 days, and then it's going to become 0.5% and then 0.1%,
Right. And
because and that's how that's normal, right?
yeah.
That's how improvement comes about. So I wonder if this improving 3,000% or whatever in the course of a year, it's actually an overestimation. I wonder if there's actually any field where people have actually done it.
Yeah, because it's an interesting thing, because let's say we're talking about a sport, which is somewhat measurable, like how you do at a sport. At first it's very easy to improve because you're competing against. If you're comparing yourself relative to other people, in the beginning, you're just competing against people who are not that good at the field. But as you get better and better, you're competing against people who put in serious time and effort. And it's a little bit harder to improve relative to them, because they're also trying to improve. And, it's very, very difficult. But, first off, Kaizen doesn't say 1% a day. It just means you feel better about life as you achieve excellence and as you have good habits. And part of doing that is not skipping a day. So it's continuous and incremental improvement. So for instance, writing down 10 ideas a day, it doesn't matter. Maybe don't write 10 ideas a day, but if you could even do 2 ideas a day or 3 ideas a day. If you're trying to exercise every day, maybe you don't do 100 push-ups a day, but if you get in 5 push-ups just to keep the continuous improvement going, I think that's what Kaizen refers to, and it feels good. You feel like you're building habits.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, because at times even kind of having goals that are too big is a big problem. Like, for example, I've seen with many things, I think that the most important thing every day is to just do one step in the right direction, right? As long as you do one
Right.
in the right direction, it's better than standing still or going backwards.
Yeah, and it reminds me of one time. This was 1991. Okay, I was just thrown out of graduate school. I was unemployed. I had nothing to do, nowhere to go, and I was a little depressed. And a friend of mine, called me up and said, "Listen, just do one positive thing a day to move yourself forward, and you'll feel better. You'll be more likely to get your next job, and so on." And that person was right. I don't know if that was actually Kaizen, but that continuous thing. By the way, the notion of the learning curve and like how it gets steep in the beginning, but then it sort of plateaus, and it is the same as the math for the curve for a pandemic. So in a pandemic, like when COVID started, everybody thought, "Oh my gosh, this is going to grow exponentially every single day until it covers the entire world and everybody dies from COVID or whatever." But the math for a pandemic, which none of the newspapers either talked about or seemed to know, was more like a learning curve, which is like an S. So at first you don't know anything, then it's flat, then it goes straight up like that. The learning curve is steep, and then it plateaus, like we were saying, Paulo. But it's the same thing with a pandemic, because at first nobody has it, then people start getting it exponentially, and they spread it to the other people who don't have it. But then herd immunity develops, or some kind of natural immunity or vaccines or whatever, and it plateaus again. So that's the actual math of the math of a pandemic curve is the same as the math for a learning curve. It's probably the same for the math if you model this Kaizen.
So is there a Japanese word for that as well, for the curve?
No.
Probably Kaizen.
We'd have to say, yeah.
well, maybe they teach. There should be like math for all of these philosophical concepts. But if you think about it, like take push-ups as an example. If you start off doing one push-up, it's easy to improve 1% a day. But like Jay, how many push-ups do you do every day? Just lie and
30.
say something. 30? Okay.
50.
Like Paul, do you exercise every day?
Yep.
What do you do?
Just weights.
Oh, okay. Do you do push-ups or anything?
Yeah.
Do you try to improve every day?
Not every day. For push-ups, I wouldn't do push-ups every day. It would be part of a kind of a routine that changes every day. Well, it has a schedule that goes in a weekly fashion.
Are you fully jacked? Are you like in the
you
summer
know,
when you go
working
to the
on it.
beach, do people turn their heads and like, holy shit, is that the Rubik's Cube guy?
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, that's exactly the case.
I can do the Rubik's Cube on his body.
Right, with his
Yes,
chest,
that's a
his
goal.
pecs. So
Yeah.
I try to do the 1% a day improvement. I'm like, I start off every morning with 25 push-ups. Sometimes I'll get up to 30 and then I'll like rewind, like, oh, I don't feel like doing 30 today, and I'll go back to 25. So it seems hard to improve 1% a day at exercise, but I like the habit though.
For me, like I feel like exercise for me, it's I don't know if I want to improve 1% a day. I feel like I want to slowly build up my muscle, so I just do the same rep over and over until I'm not like out of breath every time I do it.
For muscle building, there are three things that matter. One is the amount of calories that you eat, second is the amount of protein, and then
Right.
the third is something called progressive overload, which means that whenever you work out, you should stress your muscles a little bit more, right? So
Ah,
if you keep doing every day the same weight and the same number of reps, it's not very useful. It's not gonna cause your muscles to grow. You're gonna have to actually. That's exactly where the 1% rule would work, because you always need to try to do a little bit more. If you keep it steady, it's not gonna cause like optimal muscle growth.
So I have two questions about that. One is, if you do the same every day, do you at least maintain or no?
Yeah, I think you'd maintain.
And
Yeah,
the second question
but
is, what other domains does that apply to as well? Like, for instance, if you're learning a language and you do the same amount of learning every day, are you ultimately not going to get much better at the language?
I'm not sure. I would say yes though, because it's that's the idea of the kind of deliberate practice, right? You should always do something that takes you a little bit out of your comfort zone. Otherwise, you plateau and coast.
I think that's true.
I
Like,
think
I
that's
think that's really true for like for many activities. Like, for instance, writing. I feel like you always have to experiment and get out of your comfort zone a little bit in order to improve, and that's a scary thing to do because people people judge you either constructively or destructively. You can't control people's feedback from when you're out there with podcasting or writing or whatever. Okay, so that's Kaizen, and I do think doing something continuously and trying to be incremental about improvement is a great idea. Here's another one, wabi sabi, which when I first heard that term, I thought it was like wasabi, and I saw it on a book title. I thought it was like a cookbook, but
I mean,
so.
kid,
It's not.
I'm Asian. I thought it's wasabi as well. I'm like, did that guy spell wrongly? Is it something that put in a sushi? And apparently it's not.
yeah, apparently it's not.
It's embrace imperfections and impermanence in life.
Yeah, so the idea is in part to see the beauty in everything because everything has some imperfection. So, like, for instance, a vase might be beautiful, but if there's a crack in the vase, if you're practicing wabi sabi, you find it even more beautiful that here's this beautiful vase with this, very realistic, lifelike imperfection because all life has imperfections to it.
Right. This is almost like the appreciations technique. Like you appreciate everything in life, even though it's not perfect.
Right. So, and it's very similar to having a practice of compassion for people because everybody's imperfect, but you can still have compassion for them anyway. And again, it's a beautiful thing when you're looking at things in life. You start to notice more things. You don't notice just the beautiful things. You notice the things that make it not beautiful, and for that, it makes it even more beautiful for you.
Right.
Yeah, this makes
Yeah.
sense. It also reminds me of the sentence, "Perfect is the enemy of good."
Yeah.
So a
Oh,
lot of the
right.
times it's better to get something done and make sure it's done until instead of waiting for it to be perfect. And it seems it's got some relation to this as well.
And I guess people like study these things. So like people, I guess maybe artists or whatever, you study wabi sabi to get better at being an artist. I don't know. Apparently, yeah,
Really?
apparently this has been around for hundreds of years, centuries. So the word wabi, I don't understand when you translate this directly. I looked this up. The word wabi uh, refers to the loneliness of living in nature, and the word sabi meant lean or withered. So why do you think
Oh, I guess like nature is viewed as like perfect, but I wonder, but it's interesting. It refers to the loneliness of living in nature, and sabi means withered. I wonder how this translates to finding, imperfect objects fascinating and beautiful.
I wonder if it's meant like even though we are living in a world with nature and loneliness, we have to embrace it and appreciate what you have right now.
Mm.
Because back then there's no technology. Back then people live not that close together. I mean, we still are like a group or a tribe, but still that sometimes go outside all by yourself at night. I can sort of imagine like the Japanese scene, step under the moonlight and there's bamboo trees all around and then wind blowing. It is sort of like sad and loneliness, but at the same time it's pretty beautiful because there's moon, that's stars, and you still alive.
Yeah, and I guess it's funny. Like I feel like America is a very perfectionist kind of society. Not that we're all trying to be perfect, but that we want the things around us to be perfect. So I don't want to just I don't want to just have an iPhone. I need an iPhone where I can read every book that I want. I can listen to every song that I want. I can play every game that I want. I could get the directions to every place that I want. I don't ever want to be out of service. Like it should never be the case that my service can't be heard, so I can't call people or whatever. Like every object we have in America, we want to be perfect, and that's what makes America so interesting. I think this sort of perfectionist frontier aspect that we can always make something a little bit better, a little bit more perfect. But it also makes, I think, there's no way for Americans to back off and we're always unhappy unless we're moving towards the next state of perfection. Whereas it
Right.
seems like with this philosophy, you could say, "Oh, I'm feeling lonely in nature," but you could appreciate the beauty around you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this should be the logo of every thrift store.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, embracing perfection. Yeah, why
Yeah,
buy
people
new
wear this.
clothes?
Yeah, this there's a hole in this clothes. Buy it. Just show off your abs. The whole.
I know for me, when I started more to appreciate my imperfections, of which there were many, my writing became a lot better and got a lot more notice. So when I finally just admitted all of my failings and all the times that I've had disasters happen to me, that's what people ultimately like. People would even say on, like, I'd post my articles on Twitter, and this is back in like 2009 or 2010. People would say,
Right.
"Oh my God, too much information," but then they would privately write me and say, "Oh yeah, that happened to me as well. Don't tell anyone." So
Wait. So, what are the one thing that you hated yourself the most, but you changed it or you embraced it, and then it became ultimately better for you?
I don't know if anything became ultimately better for me. I think this is related to Carol Dweck's thing of mindset. You even have sometimes people have a fixed
Right.
mindset where they think I'm either smart or stupid and I'm born that way. And some people have a growth mindset, meaning, God, I didn't do this so well, but I could try harder and work harder and I'll get better at this. That's like a growth mindset. And everybody likes to
Right.
think that they have a growth mindset, but I actually think I have a fixed mindset. Like when I was a kid, everyone told me I was like a genius and I was smart and I'd, you know, blah, 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 be a big success. And then when I started failing, I couldn't handle it. I got like depressed. And then when I started writing about the times I've gone broke, that really helped me to analyze, hey, this could happen to me. By the way, it could happen to me many times. And I have to work hard to figure it out so it doesn't happen to me again. Like I'm sort of addicted to these kinds of failings. So I think, translating this to wabi sabi, I think looking at things in this way, it allows you to forgive yourself more of your own imperfections when you realize everything has
Right.
imperfection. It gets rid of that fixed mindset. Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main. That's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable,
packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional, and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and or cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com. You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players, and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy.
You know what I really like on the list? The next item is Shin-Gi-Tai.
I never even heard of that one.
Shin-Gi-Tai is actually a thing. And like it's every culture has it. Every culture has it. But I just like the way it sounds in Japanese. Shin-Gi-Tai is translate as mind, technique, and body. So they are the three elements for maximum performance in martial art. So what does that really mean is if you have a healthy body and healthy mind, it's it's like the best way for you to hone in your skill or refine your skill when you have a healthy body.
Well, it's interesting because in like the chess world, which you think of as purely a mental thing, and it used to be the case that if you like 40, 50 years ago, if you went to a chess tournament, everybody would be, kind of this really, unhealthy looking, people would bring their bag, like 5 bags of McDonald's to the chess tournament, and they'd like be eating at the table and just everybody smelled badly.
Do they all wear glasses and have acne?
Kind of, yeah. And then look, that's why I was there as an 18-year-old. And but now, I mean, you look at like Magnus Carlsen, who's the world champion. That guy works out every day. Like he's in top shape. And all the best chess players, you could tell they're in like top shape. Even at a
Right.
tournament, you can see the top players are in good shape, and of course, technique gets more and more refined, and so you can't just be smart and play chess. You have to know chess technique. By the way, it's the same as tennis. You can't just be like an athlete. You have to know tennis technique. You have to know the latest skill, coaching techniques, and so on. And of course, you need a healthy mind to be able to handle loss and failure and frustration. And you need to have a healthy body. And that works for sales too. Let's say you're a business salesperson. People want somebody who is healthy. People want to deal with someone who's healthy looking. And who's smart to be able to adjust to shifting problems and stuff. But also, you need to know basic sales techniques in order to be successful as a salesperson. So I like that one as well. And it reminds me of all of this stuff. Reminds me of like the Japanese tea ceremony, because I feel like it's.
Wait, what? Japanese tea ceremony?
Yeah, have you ever seen a Japanese tea ceremony?
I've seen it in movies and cartoon and anime, but I don't think I've seen it in real
Yeah,
life.
there's places in New York. See, you live in New York City, but I always say nobody really makes use of all the things in New York City. There's plenty of places in New York City where you can have an authentic Japanese tea ceremony, and it's not just somebody serving tea. There's a whole philosophy around it where there has to be harmony between the guests and nature. There has to be kind of it's almost like it's like a very meditative thing to be part of a Japanese. It's like a very spiritual thing to be a part of a Japanese tea ceremony. Everything has to be done just right and kind of fit.
Yeah, now I'm very curious. I want to see if I can find a place where they have it in London.
I'm sure there is.
I'm pretty sure.
I've only had
I'm pretty-
the
I'm pretty
afternoon
sure-
tea, which is
I'm pretty
I suppose it doesn't sound.
No, but
as,
the problem you
as
have is
interesting as that.
your Google is competing with the British afternoon tea,
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
which is a completely different thing.
British tea. Yeah, it is.
You
It is.
have
One
little
is drink with the pinky
Yeah,
up.
and you have little sandwiches and little cakes
Yep.
with your
Yep.
afternoon tea.
No,
Scones.
James. What are you talking about? Sandwiches is scone.
Is it?
It's scones.
Are they called scones?
It's scones, but it's not the kind of American scone that you get at KFC. It's more of a sweet thing that you have with jam and I think clotted cream.
Yeah.
It's,
So
that's what it goes
British.
with.
with the Japanese tea ceremony, I'm reading this. You have to have the awareness that each tea gathering is a once in a lifetime event, never to occur again. And so, sharing of a bowl of tea should be conducted with humility and utmost sincerity, and tranquility.
Well, also like Japanese culture is all about respect. Respect other people and mindfulness too. So like that only makes sense if the
Yeah, all these things are very mindful and very kind of. There's a very strong connection with nature. And why do you think that doesn't occur in, like, for instance, I feel completely disconnected from nature all the time. And I would think in America you would be more connected to nature, because when Europeans first got to America, I shouldn't say Americans, when Europeans first got to America, it was just all nature. There was nothing else but nature. So why do you think there's not more respect for nature here?
I felt like Americans have a lot of like, hey, we have to get the next best technology mindset. They want to live comfortably, but without the nature.
And also, by definition, progress is going away from nature, right? Further away, because if we were in nature, we'd be living in a cave, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Essentially, the more you outsource, the further you are from nature. So, for instance, if I outsource cooking, okay, it means I'm ordering delivery through Uber Eats or I'm going to a restaurant. That's completely different than what I would have done if I lived in nature, where I have to cook something. Even like in the oven, okay, is a way of outsourcing digestion. So instead of eating something raw, you put it in an oven, and it makes the food easier to digest because it heats it up and it softens it and so on. And we've all gotten used to outsourcing our digestion to microwaves and ovens.
Yeah.
Just I always pause when I think I've made a really stunning, interesting point, but it's okay if nobody else.
I mean,
so.
it
We're
is
amazed.
very interesting.
I was
like,
speechless myself, right?
I know. Yeah, like who used microwave, dude? We use wok. I use wok. Have you looked at my skin color? I use wok all the time.
Well, I never use a wok because I never cook. I order. Well, when my kids are around, they cook, and otherwise, I
Right.
usually order from Uber Eats. And I have not cooked in about 20 years.
The best invention, I think, is the thing that like the East meets West type of thing. Is the pan wok. Have you tried pan
No,
wok?
what's a pan wok?
So pan wok is a wok, but with a flat surface at the bottom.
I thought, a wok has like a
So
curved surface, right?
yeah. Pan wok is a flat surface, but have the wok shape. It's the best thing ever. You can cook everything. You can cook
Wow.
from Chinese fried rice, pancakes to pizza if you
Jay,
want
I
to.
feel like your Asian accent just got a little more enhanced while you were saying that. Like you got really into that in a very Asian accent way.
I'm embracing my culture. I'm doing wabi sabi.
So anyway, so this is seven Japanese concepts. Oh, we didn't say all of them, but that's okay. 7 Japanese concepts
Yep.
that can help with self-mastery. The one we didn't mention really that much was Ikigai that I always like. But read this for the rest. It's on Notepad, notepd.com. And by the way, I'm gonna, Paulo, if I branch off this and make my own list of Japanese concepts, does that count as my list of the day to add to my streak? I
definitely.
don't want to break my streak
will.
because then I'll be
Yes, it will.
sad. So, yeah, okay. Like, let me see. Oh, I click on branch, and all right, I got it. I figured it out. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks Jay and Paulo, and thanks everyone who listened. For me, I know these concepts I think about a lot and have been extremely helpful to me. And they really do not only improve your life, but give you a sense of peace. And for me, I always need things that help me forgive my many, many failures in life.